What's going on, everybody? This is MDENT313, and I'm back at y'all with another one. Listen, the wonderful world of boxing, the hypocrisy that goes on is absolutely undefeated. There's always some hypocritical stuff going on in boxing. Which brings me to what's on the thumbnail, ladies and gentlemen. You got a potential future Hall of Famer and Mikey Garcia, right? Now, as you know, Mikey Garcia was one of my favorite fighters to watch. He just retired not too long ago, and he was still young. I don't think he should have retired, but hey, who am I to tell a man he should or shouldn't retire, right? Mikey Garcia was an excellent fighter. Solid boxer, man. Good power, good popping his punches. Had a phenomenal trainer, and Robert Garcia, who's now training Virgil Ortiz. Robert Garcia is his uncle. Man, Mikey Garcia was great for boxing. He beat guys like Adrian Broner, Dejan Latishin, Robert Easter Jr. when Robert Easter Jr. was, pretty good. Back when Broner was still pretty good. He got a stellar resume. He got a respectable resume. There was one guy I would have liked to see him fight, and that was Yuriokis Gamboa, but unfortunately, that fight never came to fruition, which ultimately led to Mikey Garcia buying himself out of his top-ranked contract, which he had to sit on the shelf. Shoot, I want to say for like 3 years. Mikey Garcia ended up becoming a police officer before making his way back to boxing, where he signed over to the PBC, and he got those three phenomenal wins that I'm talking about with Dejan Latishin, Robert Easter Jr., and Adrian Broner, right? And then the hypocritical thing is Mikey Garcia was fighting at 135, right? That's when the fight between him and Vasyl Lomachenko was at its apex, right? And everybody wanted to see Mikey Garcia versus Vasyl Lomachenko, and I think Mikey Garcia would have stopped Vasyl Lomachenko. It ain't no doubt in my mind. Mikey was too big, too strong, skilled. All that in and out stuff that Lomachenko do, that only work with fighters who don't know how to gauge distance, don't know how to cut the ring off, have slow feet, and don't know how to counter punch. But Mikey Garcia was all wrong for Vasyl Lomachenko. But anyway, Mikey Garcia decides to move up. It was looked at as two weight classes to fight Earl Spence, right? Earl the Truth Spence Jr. And that same Earl Spence Jr. is the one who got one loss to Terrence Crawford, right? Now, at that time, that particular Earl Spence was prime, indestructible Earl Spence, right? And everybody was telling Mikey, nah, I don't think that's a good idea, right? So people was like, well, Mikey Garcia, he got 1 or 2 fights at 140. He shouldn't do it, right? And I thought that he should, because I thought that, in my personal opinion, right? Because he had beat Sergey Lipinets as well at 140. And I thought, look, why not? Mikey Garcia is clearly the best 140 and 135 pounder. Why not? Right? But I remember a lot of people telling him at the time, you shouldn't go up there and fight Earl Spence. Earl Spence is too big. He's too strong. There's nothing you can do with him, right? And the only difference was, right, when it came to Mikey Garcia and Earl Spence, you had a lot of legends like Sugar Ray Leonard and other people that was either picking Mikey Garcia to win the fight, or they were saying that Mikey Garcia has a great chance to beat Earl Spence, right? I thought that at a skill, he was at a skill deficit, because Earl Spence pretty much was a bigger Mikey Garcia, but far more athletic, and he was a much better body puncher than Mikey Garcia. But nevertheless, nobody told Mikey Garcia that, hey, it's a money grab, because this is what Mikey Garcia said. Mikey Garcia said Terrence Crawford is only fighting Canelo because it's a huge payday. He said that he don't believe Terrence Crawford think he could win a fight. He's only going up there to get paid. He don't really believe he can win, and he has no chance against Canelo, and Canelo's too big and too skilled. But it's a vast difference between the Earl Spence situation with Mikey Garcia and the Terrence Crawford situation with Canelo. And let me tell you why, right? And this is in my opinion. When I analyzed that fight between Mikey Garcia and Earl Spence Jr., I never, even though I brought up the size, but I also thought that Mikey Garcia, he was at a skill deficit. When you just look at the physical attributes, let's just talk about the physical attributes. Earl Spence was taller with a longer reach, who also could box, but he was primarily a banger. He was a boxer puncher. So he was a banger who could box, right? When you look at Mikey Garcia was pretty much a counter puncher, but can come forward and hurt you, right? But it was nowhere in there where I thought that Mikey Garcia was a more skilled fighter than Earl Spence, right? So if Earl Spence and Mikey Garcia was ever in the same weight class naturally and the same size naturally, I would have never picked Mikey Garcia to beat Earl Spence, right? Now it may have been a better fight. I don't believe so, but maybe. But at no point in time did I ever think that, considering all things being equal, Mikey could do anything with Earl, right? So when the legends like Sugar Ray Leonard and other guys were saying they were picking Mikey, I don't want to be disrespectful because they done forgot more boxing than I'll ever know. But at no way in the world did I ever see, that happening. When you look at the other side of the board, when you look at Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez, Terrence Crawford is at a size, from a weight perspective, he's at a size disadvantage, but he's not at a skill deficit. Skill for skill, Terrence Crawford is a by far more skilled fighter than Canelo Alvarez, right? When you look at counter-punching ability, and that's something that Canelo Alvarez does well, Terrence Crawford is a better counter-puncher, by far. When you look at power per capita, Terrence, not overall power, because Canelo has more overall power. If they were in the same weight class, if you look at what Terrence Crawford has been able to do, knocking out 11 of his last 12 opponents, per capita, Terrence Crawford has more power than Canelo. When you look at a foot speed, Terrence Crawford has far more educated feet, whether it's getting on his toes or walking you down or fighting, at whatever range he want to fight at. Terrence Crawford has that one every day of the week. When you look at who has the better jab, Terrence Crawford has the better jab. When you look at who has more hand speed, Terrence Crawford has more hand speed. When you look at defense, that's about where they're closest to being equal at. You can make a case that Canelo Alvarez may have better head movement than Terrence Crawford, and that's very debatable. But if somebody were to say that, I wouldn't be mad at you, because you can honestly, you can go either way with that, right? When you're talking about combination punching, when was the last time you really seen Canelo Alvarez putting 4 and 5 punch combinations together? You see what I'm saying? When you're talking about angles, when do you really see Canelo Alvarez hitting people and attacking people at crazy angles? When you're talking about feinting, getting people out of position, that's something Terrence Crawford has mastered. You don't really see Canelo really doing that a whole lot. If you are the type of fighter who don't understand where you at in the ring, and you don't have enough power to keep Canelo off of you, and you don't understand the fact that Canelo Alvarez need to be set to really throw and hurt you, yeah, then Canelo Alvarez is going to mentally drain you when he's walking you down, put pressure on you, beat you up to the body, and get you up out of there. But fighters who understand what they're looking at in the ring, that's not going to work on them. One of the things that people underestimate about smaller guys, a lot of times people think, man, you're at a certain, you know, this fighter's at such disadvantage because he's so small. Yeah, that can be true if the fighter he's fighting know how to use his size and his height and his length. One of the reasons Canelo Alvarez easily be beating these bigger guys is because, one, Canelo Alvarez have enough power to get their respect. Number two, Canelo Alvarez is normally the faster fighter in the ring. But when he get in there with Terence Crawford, he isn't, for the first time in a long time, going to be the faster fighter. What I mean by faster fighter, I mean hand speed, foot speed, beating people to the punch. Because you could beat the bigger guys to the punch because you're a lot faster than them, you're lighter than them, you're quicker than them. So it's a lot of things that's drastically different with the Terence Crawford, the Terence Crawford Canelo, as opposed to Mikey Garcia and Errol Spence. And another thing that people isn't taking into consideration, with the Mikey Garcia and Errol Spence situation, at no point in time did Errol Spence ever fight below 147. Actually, a lot of people don't know that Errol Spence started his career off at 154 and he moved down in weight. You see what I'm saying? Whereas Mikey Garcia started off at 126 and came up. But Errol Spence was a natural 154 to 147 pounder, and he has fought there his whole career. Whereas when you look at Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford, Canelo Alvarez started his career off at either 140 or 147 and moved up to 168 and 175. Canelo Alvarez didn't start his career at 168 and you get what I'm saying, and move up from there. He started as a smaller man and moved up the same way Terence Crawford and Mikey Garcia starting off as smaller men, slowly moving up in weight. And that's the difference. Errol Spence was always way bigger than Mikey, and on top of that, he had more skill than Mikey. Errol, to be honest with you, had Errol used his size in the Mikey Garcia fight, he would have knocked Mikey Garcia out. But Errol Spence boxed him and used his skill to beat Mikey Garcia. So, in my opinion, how can you say that? So when you went to go fight Errol Spence, you felt like, oh, you was doing it because you was fighting for legacy. But when Terence Crawford is deciding to move up to fight Canelo Alvarez, he's doing it for a money grab. And the reason why I think a lot of people don't really want to see this fight is because deep down, a lot of people know that Terence Crawford has a 70% chance to beat Canelo Alvarez, and that's the bottom line. Just point blank period. Let's just go ahead and be honest about it. A lot of people don't want to see Canelo Alvarez get beat by a smaller man, because that's going to force you to have to say that Terence Crawford is the best fighter of this era. Andre Ward was the best fighter in between Terence Crawford and Floyd Mayweather. So you had the Floyd Mayweather era, then in between that, Andre Ward was the best fighter right after Floyd, and right after Andre Ward, Terence Crawford was the best fighter of this era. And whether you like it or not, that's just what's going to happen. Canelo Alvarez is going to take that big payday, and I'm here to tell you, Terence Crawford is going to piss a lot of people off when he knock out Canelo Alvarez. And that's all I got on this one. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Like, share, and subscribe.